mother, it's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
duo
of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Both and Zach kicking it cooler than
two.
When still Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Both and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Wednesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Marissa Dunn here after the sort of a mini bye, a Thursday game. We had the weekend with the family. Zach was biking all over town, I'm sure. Browns had a bye, so Marissa was getting crazy. How's everybody doing?
Doing great. Excited for this podcast.
Yeah, very relaxing weekend. Nothing crazy. But yeah, good to be back. I missed you guys and all of the sickos. So
I know we signed on. We did a cameo before the record today. I felt like I hadn't gone that long without seeing you in a very long time.
I know, it was like 7-minute cameo. Nowhere else.
Cameos are guns blazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say a very good chance that the cameos are better content than the podcast. And the podcast is already better than it's ever been. So, I mean, you're missing out if you're not hitting up on that cameo. Zach, what'd you do this weekend?
I spent time with the family. I watched football. I went to Jason Kelce's charity event. It was the kickoff for the. That's not a flex. It was part of the job. But it was
now
nice.
You're taking shots at me.
I am not taking shots at you at all. It was nice. It was a nice event, a very worthwhile cause for those who have known Jason for the past decade or so. He's been. And this is me talking, not him, but I don't think he would disagree.
People watching for the listeners,
Yes.
This is, I can confirm, Zach is the one who's talking right now.
He's been judicious with how he's used like his name and his platform. He's not one of these guys, even after the Super Bowl and the speech, that you see him everywhere, right? He's been mindful of that. So he launched the Underdog brand, the apparel line. And he launched it's the Be Philly Foundation, and it's supporting local causes for education. I mean, a cause that's very important to me, Philadelphia Futures, which is a foundation in Philadelphia for public school students in Philadelphia. And then in addition, and I should say that's one of the beneficiaries. It's not entirely that,
which you are involved in.
Which I'm involved in, correct. And then in addition to that, Jason was telling me all the apparel is Philadelphia based, like Philadelphia artists, Philadelphia manufacturers, Philadelphia distribution. So we'll have more on that later this week on The Athletic. You can check that out. But I was there, and I'll also say, not to pump up Jason or this team. I'm just being honest here, and this is something that I think Marissa can definitely understand. These players don't have a lot of Sundays off. And I was surprised to see, frankly, as many players who were there as were there, because I could say it was one of those things. I wasn't sure if I was going to get into the car and go. I don't have a lot of Sundays, but I said this is worth going to. And then you see, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, the offensive linemen. I don't want to leave anyone out. Players from both sides of the ball, from special teams. There were so many players there. Dallas Goedert, Devontae Maddox, Lane Johnson, Isaac Sayamalu, Landon Dickerson, Jack Driscoll. I can go on down the list. There were so many here. And I think that speaks quite a bit to Jason and to how tight-knit this group is. And when I spoke to Jason about that, he pointed that out, that all the teams that he's been a part of here have had kind of chemistry and connection and that kind of thing. But for these guys to come out on a Sunday says a lot. Jeff Stoutland was there. There were people from the Eagles front office. So that's how I spent Sunday afternoon. I missed some of the after the 4:00 games that I wanted to see, but I was
There were only
able
2
to check
games
them
at 4:00. No big deal.
I was able to check them out and the scores, and I saw the power rankings yesterday to fill me in on where everyone ranks. So I'm good to go there.
People in Minnesota not very happy with Bo Wulf and their place in the power rankings, but I mean, they're like 18th in DVOA. Calm down.
What did you think
Take
of
it
the
easy.
Kirk Cousins video?
I don't know if I should comment. Might be best if I stay away from that
Okay,
one.
we'll go back because I have another question. Speaking of Kelce, we listened to during our bye week, we listened to his podcast. What have you thought of his podcast, Zach?
Have
you not listened yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
No. Of course I've listened.
okay. Yeah. You made a face, and I was thinking, oh wow.
No, because
he listened to the Ted Rath podcast. Of course, he listened to the Jason Kelce podcast.
I would recommend that the Ted Rath podcast was enjoyable. I learned a lot, and there's perspective there that could help me on and off the field, or on and off work, I should say. The Kelce podcast. I remember when Connor Barwin wrote an article for the Monday Morning Quarterback, and like I sent him a note or said something to him that I think you can take my job, right? It was really well written. Like I think Kelce's really good on there. His thoughts, his delivery. It's a very entertaining podcast. So it gets I don't want to say frustrating, but like you're jealous when someone can play center as well as he does, and then just go onto a podcast without training and do it as well as he does. So yeah, I'm enjoying the podcast. Good content and good production value as well.
Yeah, I think it's very good. I mean, easily the second best Eagles podcast, as we've said.
Yeah.
No
No,
doubt
I
about
liked it too. I thought it was awesome. I'll definitely start listening to it more.
By the way, is Jason Kelce now qualified to be an NFL coach? Because I was talking to someone yesterday who asked me like my opinions on Jeff Saturday, and the person didn't really know much about him. And I said it would be similar to the Eagles hiring Jason Kelce as the head coach a few years after he played without any coaching experience in college or the NFL. And the person I was speaking to, who was an Eagles fan, said that actually doesn't sound that bad. So perhaps when framed that way, it hits a little differently.
Well, Jason Kelce does fit the number 1 qualification,
which is
the color of his skin.
Okay.
Right. Although I do think there is like who wants that job? You know, like Jim Irsay is
a lot of people would want that job. There's only 32 of these jobs.
Yeah, sure. That's true. But like, it's a terrible situation to begin with. The guy is completely unserious. He's completely off the rails. There's probably like another shoe to fall here with Jim Irsay. So let's calm down. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. Imagine being Reggie Wayne. Like, imagine being an equally important and revered member of the franchise from those glory years, but you've also already been coaching all season long, and you're just sitting there and Jeff Saturday shows up and is your boss all of a sudden? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I mean, you know, there's certainly other coaches you can point to. You know, Scott Montgomery, who has been like a college head coach, has been on multiple NFL staffs. If you didn't want to, you know, pick a coordinator, there are certainly other people there. So I was surprised to see it. Yeah, I was certainly surprised to see that.
Okay.
But to your question, who would want that job? I think there's gonna be no shortage of people who want that job.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it's an actual job available in the offseason,
Sure.
I think there's a difference between getting thrown into this tire fire of like, you have to play Sam Ehlinger and the team is like basically trying to tank. It's a little different.
Yeah, I do push back on this school of thought. Well, it's only an interim job. Like, there's going to be a full process this offseason. The interim job gives you an opportunity to get the job. Look at the Phillies. Rob Thompson, when he got hired, did anyone think he was going to be the manager? It gives you a chance, right? So, and you can say the same thing about Steve Wilkes in Carolina. It's not just a given that you're going to be replaced. Now, there are situations like Las Vegas last year, Rich Bisaccia probably did everything he could have done to keep that job, and he doesn't get it. And then they hired Josh McDaniels, and they're worse off. So sometimes there is, the coaches are, or the owners rather, are committed to bringing in someone else. But I push back on this idea. Well, it's only 8 games, and there's going to be this real earnest search during the offseason, because the interim job, almost by definition, gives you an opportunity to try out for the full-time job.
Yeah, that's fair. Remember, who's the I feel like the most famous overreaction to like a small sample size, good performance by the interim coach? Who was the West Virginia guy? I think after Rich Rod left.
Bill Store, yeah.
He won one bowl game and then they hired him and he was terrible.
He was terrible, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
All right. Well, Zach, the Colts, I had it on my radar that like maybe that would be the surprise loss for the Eagles, because there's always that dynamic with like a mentor coach against his pupil, where like sometimes wacky things happen. I thought maybe like Sirianni would take it easy, like not intentionally, but like against Frank Reich. Reich's got his secrets. That's not going to happen now. I don't think Jeff Saturday is going to make that happen, but we're going to spin this forward. We are at the halfway point of the season. The Birds with Friends is fantastic, Zach. We've been as good as ever. However, I do feel like we've gotten a little bit away from the original mission statement of the podcast, which was to have bird puns in every segment. And so we have a mid-season awards. We're going to look back on some superlatives. We're going to spin things forward. I thought about maybe making this the OSPs, because that's half of Ospreys. But let's just call it the turning point. We've reached the turn, right? TERN. We've reached the turn. Let's go with some turning point superlatives. Does that sound good to you, Zach? We're halfway through.
I'm following your lead. I'm ready to roll.
All right. Let's start as I pull up the list. Eagles 8-0. Give me your most pleasant surprise of the first half of the season. Could be an individual, could be a unit, could be a theme, could be the podcast, whatever jumps to mind for you.
So this shouldn't be a surprise. It's Jalen Hurts' development. His year 2 to year 3 development. There's not enough that can be said about this. And the best way I can frame it is there's a piece on The Athletic today that it's a round table with the NFC East writers. And the first question was who's better, the Eagles or the Cowboys, that type of question. And I said going into the year, I would have said the Cowboys because of the quarterback. But I can't say that anymore. Jalen Hurts, we had to, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. We had to fill out MVP candidates for The Athletic. And
I missed the deadline. And they closed it. They closed it right at 4. I had too much going on yesterday. I was alone with the kids. I finally get them down to dinner. I'm ready to do it. They closed the voting.
It doesn't surprise me that you missed the deadline.
I'm sorry.
I say that.
I was working on the power rankings all Sunday and Monday.
No,
I can't.
I say that lovingly.
I have like an extra hour.
I say that lovingly. You are a very effective procrastinator.
I did the all pro votes. I mean,
Yeah.
but because the MVPs, you need to like write some sentences. So I wasn't going to just dither it away and not put the work in. I wanted to have some time to sit down and do it.
So I'm very cautious in those situations of overrating the team that I cover. You don't want to be the reporter who just says like the players or the coaches that you cover are worthy of all the awards. So I was trying to talk myself.
You're putting like Mickey Morandini number 4 on your MVP ballot.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I see what he does every day, what he means to the team.
So I was trying to go with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson for MVP, even Micah Parsons, right? I was trying to do that. And then I said, look, I can't overthink this. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback for an undefeated team who he's top 5 in so many significant metrics. He's a worthy candidate. If the season ended today, it's not who we think it's going to be. It's if the season ended today, I would need to vote for Jalen Hurts. And
interesting.
So his development from year 1 to year 2 is the most pleasant surprise for the Eagles, because I'll admit I did not see this coming. There's people who reach out, whether it's via email or social media, who are like, where was this energy about Hurts last year? Well, I've changed my mind. I've changed. I have more information here. Jalen Hurts' development has been outstanding. He is the most pleasant surprise so far.
I would not have put him number one on my MVP ballot.
Okay, that's fair.
I think I would have gone 1 Mahomes, 2 Josh Allen, 3 Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Zach Rosenblatt also had Jalen Hurts. He said,
I think it's a totally reasonable. I don't think it's a totally reasonable thing. I would, I think Sirianni is coach of the year. You can't argue with the performance and the record. I just like if you switch their places, I think the Eagles would still be undefeated and the Chiefs might not be.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you switch their places, the Eagles
they'd both be very good.
The Eagles would definitely be undefeated.
Right. I think Mahomes is a little bit better. And if you go by EPA per dropback, he's a little bit higher. So I don't know. But you're splitting hairs. And I agree. My most pleasant surprise is definitely Jalen Hurts. I said in the summer, and I wrote that if Jalen Hurts plays this season like he has played this summer in training camp, the Eagles will win the division and he will be the long-term starter for the team. And I completely undersold. Like he's been way better than that. I did not see quite this level coming. He is 4th in EPA per dropback. All of the things that we've talked about. He's protecting the ball really well, aside from what happened against the Texans, those 2 fumbles. He has taken advantage of what we talked about, the things that A.J. Brown brings to the offense. He's throwing the ball over the middle of the field more. Just like the Eagles have shown that they can win in different ways, he has shown that he can win in different ways. You had the week 1 game against the Lions when they blitzed and played man, and he ran all over them. You had the 2 weeks later against the Vikings. They play heavy zone. He carves them apart. He has won with his arm, with his legs, with his mind. He's been awesome. The team has taken on his personality. I don't think any of us saw quite this level coming. I think you were hoping that he could be a back end of the top 10 quarterback this year if you were being really aggressive, and he's been a top 3 or 4 quarterback. He's been awesome. So I don't think there's any doubt that he is the most pleasant surprise. It would be silly to vote for anything else. All right. Next up, we flip it, Zach. Biggest disappointment. Tough to find a disappointment in an 8-0 team.
So I was going to say that because it's hard to really pinpoint a disappointment with an 8-0 team. If I had to pick one, I would say probably Nakobe Dean not developing into a starting linebacker. But part of that's probably been the guys in front of him, right? TJ Edwards and Kaiser White have played at a high level. But if you had told me that Nakobe Dean would be healthy throughout the year back in the summer, I would have said he'll take over as a starting linebacker. So I would probably go that. But again, that's really nitpicking. There really isn't a disappointment when they're playing well on both sides of the ball and they're 8-0.
Yeah, I find it hard to get riled up about the Nakobe Dean thing. Like if he was on the field and playing poorly, that would be one thing. But those guys are playing at a high level, right? It's not like there's a reason. It's not like Alex Singleton is out there and Nakobe Dean can't get on the field. Like TJ Edwards is playing better than he ever has. Kaiser White is playing very well. It's hard. I think we would have expected, and I think I probably said over the summer that I expected he would end up playing close to the most snaps, and that by the end of the season he would earn his way into the job. But those other guys have played so well. There's no reason for him to be thrown into the mix. But I mean, it speaks to your point. There's not a lot to say about this team. Disappointment wise, somebody said it in the chat. Josh Sweat. I don't think that Josh Sweat has been bad, but I think the pass rush has been very good, but there hasn't been someone aside from Hassan Reddick who has really popped. I mean, this is really splitting hairs. The Eagles are second in DVOA on defense. They were second to last in the league in sacks last year. The pressure has been much better, but Josh Sweat hasn't made a huge leap. That's a little bit on my radar. Javon Hargrave has been awesome of late, but until the first 6 games, he wasn't standing out. Milton Williams, we've talked about, is maybe like the most individually disappointing player, but he's looked much better after the bye. I think there were maybe some health issues there. I think Brandon Graham's been fine. As a group, they've been really awesome. I don't know. I'm sort of talking in circles because there's not really a good answer for biggest disappointment.
So I see somebody said special teams. Well, special teams haven't played well DVOA wise. Bears that out. But
this is my answer to a later question.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing that I would say, and this goes beyond the Eagles, so I hope this isn't like a cop-out answer, but the schedule to me is a disappointment because you wanted to see this team, or I should say, I wanted to see this team against high-level quarterback play. I figured Aaron Rodgers against the Packers would give us the information, for instance, to see how this defense has developed. Perhaps you thought Matt Ryan in that Colts offense could have done it. They haven't played against Dak Prescott yet, right? So really the best quarterback that they faced is Kyler Murray and Kirk Cousins, maybe Trevor Lawrence. But I mean, that's when you're talking about, how will this defense perform against high level quarterbacks? Because we saw that as a problem last year. We don't have that information, and they very well could go to Christmas Eve without having that information. If you're of the opinion that the Packers are a mess right now, and that offense certainly looks like a mess.
I think that's a good answer. Yeah. Speaking of which, somebody says in the chat, we are doing Swooper at the end of this episode, just as a change up. Marissa is going to be gone on Friday, so we got to get Swooper in now. So submit your Swoopers in the chat as we move forward. All right. Next up, Zach, we have best individual performance of the season.
So I don't want to mix categories here, and I don't want to conflate a future category or an upcoming category with this one. So I went with AJ Brown against the Steelers, and in particular that first half. I mean, he was awesome. He was the best player on the field. If it felt like every time they threw him the ball, Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's one of the best defensive backs in the NFL, was just flummoxed, was frustrated out there because of how good AJ Brown appeared to be. So give me AJ Brown against the Steelers.
That's a really good answer. That was one of my 2, and I was actually going to say that, so I'll change it for the sake of changing it. In my mind, when I think of the most impressive individual performance, it's Jalen Hurts against the Vikings, because it was him winning in a way that we hadn't really seen before, and he was proving. It was like he was proving that he could do that. When you look at the numbers, it doesn't quite stack up. I think his numbers against the Steelers are better on a per play basis because they didn't do a ton in the second half. It doesn't stand out, but if I'm going less by like the actual statistical performance and more by like the feel of seeing it live, I feel like the Jalen Hurts performance against the Vikings was the first time that we were really like, oh wow, like he has really made a leap. This is a different type of player than we saw before. So that stands out to me. How about the best team performance of the season, Zach?
Eagles against the Vikings, week 2. And it looks even more impressive when you see the Vikings now, what their record is. I know the DVOA doesn't support. Here we go. What's that?
Well, you're joining the chorus of Vikings fans who are yelling at me.
So look, the data doesn't back up the Vikings being this good, but they're winning games.
Sorry, I'm not that impressed. They squeaked by Taylor Heineke.
And that was a dominant performance by the Eagles, like both sides of the ball. I mean, the pass rush, the secondary, obviously hurts. So that performance stands out. That would be number 1 without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find a different answer. Like the Cowboys, because you knew it was a big game, but it was against Cooper Rush. The Steelers was like maybe their most complete performance, but it was against the worst team. I think the Vikings is a good answer. I think that's probably right. And the defense was awesome in that game. They totally flummoxed Kirk Cousins. So I think that's probably right. All right, Zach, the most overrated storyline.
Most overrated storyline from where I sit is the second half performance of games. And that's been rectified post bye week. But I even said that before the bye. I think you play differently when you're nursing a big lead, which they were in most of those games. And it's a line that I've said and I've repeated. But if your biggest gripe about a team is they're not doing enough to extend their double-digit margins in the second half, that's a good sign that your team is pretty good. And that's the way I viewed that. I do think the Eagles need to be able to score in the second half of games. What jumped out to me, though, even when that argument was going on, is that, A, they never lost their leads, right? They never were playing from behind in the second half of these games, number one. And number two, they showed they were able to score when they needed to score. In Arizona, they scored when they needed to score. Against Dallas, they scored when they needed to score. So just because you weren't putting up those the scoring rates in the second half that you did in the first half, I didn't think it was as problematic as it was made out to seem. And it became, especially after the bye, it became this dominant topic. Like, what's wrong with the Eagles in the second half of games? And I was looking at it like they're 6-0. They're beating opponents by significant margins. Like, chill out here. So I think that's been the most overrated storyline.
I think the Arizona one is a little bit different because they kicked a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown. But
Okay.
I think your larger larger point is exactly right. To the same sort of track, like trying to find things to complain about for an undefeated team. I've talked about this before. My answer is the concerns over special teams. They're 23rd in special teams DVOA. That's much different than where they rank on offense and defense. They rank second in both. But if you break it down to like where they are below average in the league, I was surprised they're not that below average in kickoffs. I thought like kickoff coverage was maybe the biggest concern. They're just below average there. They're more below average on punt return and kickoff return. Their punt return, they're 30th in the league. And like that's a personnel thing, I think. For all the reasons we've talked about, the Eagles have made the conscious decision to not worry about that too much. There is probably not that big of a gulf between the 30th best punt returner in the league and the 10th best punt returner in the league. Big returns are not happening a lot across the NFL. I don't think that this is a huge concern. It's not like they're, Covey has had a couple muffs, but it's not like they're like fumbling the ball away. And we've talked about the two like fake punt runs, I feel like are very low leverage things. And they're like, it's hard to really stop a team from getting 3 yards if they're going to roll that dice. I think the special teams have been fine. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've been fine, but I don't think it's this major cause for concern. I'm not one of these. As I started saying that, it sounded like I was saying it disparagingly. I'm not a reporter who's saying this is going to cost them in a game. I don't think that it's been as problematic as it's made out to seem. It's just it's one of those things that when a punt is blocked, it gets a lot of attention. When a punt is fair caught, it doesn't get that much attention, right? So it's like an offensive lineman with sacks.
Yeah, that's fair. The punt block, that was a big play. That's a play that's something you can't have happen. Most underrated storyline, Zach.
So this is one where I'm doubling up because I'm going to get to this on a later answer, but I don't think enough has been made about their turnover differential, like from both ends. It's historic right now in terms of the way that they're taking the ball away and the way they are not giving the ball away. I mean, they're plus 15 on the season. Let me pull up this number here, and this is courtesy of John Ganode from the Eagles PR department. Only 3 teams in NFL history have won the turnover battle in each of the first 8 games of the season. The Eagles this year, the 72 Steelers, and the 58 Baltimore Colts. So I'm going to get more into this in a later answer, but the rate in which they're doing it is changing games, and it's hard to maintain this. So I will go with that.
So you are not saying that this is I mean, I know you'll get to it, but you're not saying that this is an indication that this is definitely going to continue. It's more like maybe
Yeah,
we're
I'm
not
gonna get.
talking about that the
I
cliff
don't
is
think it's
they're
gonna
about to
continue.
fall off the cliff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to continue.
Okay.
That's a tease there, but I do think that it's not getting nearly enough. Well, it's not getting enough attention just because it's both sides of the ball, right? How good they are in terms of not giving the ball away, and then how opportunistic they've been on defense.
And I do think one is more sustainable than the other. I think like protecting the ball on offense is much more sustainable than relying on the other team to give it away. And I think the data supports that. But I don't have a good one here. I think what pops to mind for me is how healthy they've been. And knock on wood if you want to, but maybe this, it's hard to draw direct conclusions. Correlation does not equal causation here, but there was so much talk about their light training camp and like that maybe that would lead to a slow start to the season. But if they're like they everything that they have done this season has been as designed in a lot of ways, like the turnovers, whether there is a huge element of luck in there, it is true that like they do overemphasize that stuff. They coach to it. And they also, like from a practice planning standpoint, their goal is to keep everybody healthy. And they have been, if not one of the most healthy teams in the league this year. So whatever degree of luck you want to give in there, there is a bit of residue of their design here going on. And so I think that's a big deal.
Also with the turnovers, if you are playing with these leads in the second half of games, quarterbacks are more apt to throw the ball up, right? Quarterbacks are just trying to make plays late in games sometimes. So that's Bo mimicking throwing up.
Thank you for explaining that joke.
Our audio listeners might have thought you had something in your throat or something. So.
All right, Zach, last one for the look back portion of the turning points. What was the most memorable play of the season for you?
The Jalen Hurts 26-yard touchdown run against the Vikings along the right sideline, veers back in instead of going out of bounds. To me, that's his Heisman moment this season.
His Heisman moment.
Yes,
Nice.
to use that phrase. That's a college football expression, by the way. Okay.
And what sport does he play now? Is that what he's doing?
No, but I know I know you follow what the 1AA, the FCS, which is what Princeton is.
Andre Yoshivas going to the Senior Bowl. Here we go.
I saw that tweet. Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the Heisman moment is for the FBS.
Yes, I'm aware, but he's no longer in college football, so you maybe need to update your references.
Fair enough.
We're sort of talking past each other here and crisscrossing, but I'm gonna go with the AJ Brown, the third touchdown against the Steelers when he then did the pointing at Minkah Fitzpatrick and the cornerback. I thought that's the first thing that pops to mind for me.
So on Instagram, we get I believe it was Instagram. You see old posts sometimes, and I saw The Athletic posted your tweet from that game, The Athletic's account, where you said if you score 3 touchdowns, you're allowed to gloat.
On Instagram?
Yes.
I do think that should be a good rule. You score a third touchdown in a game, you're allowed to taunt.
They had this conversation on the Kelce podcast, right?
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I missed that one. But I think that's fair. I mean, how about a little incentive for your third touchdown? All right. Why don't we take a little break? We'll come back. We'll do our look aheads at the turning point here, and then we'll get into Swooper coming back on Birds with Friends.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or becoming a parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills. which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. I've talked about before how stressful this time of year is for me, and it's so important to get those feelings out and learn coping skills through therapy. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch and find a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/BWF. That's BETTERHELP.com/BWF. Ambitious hiring goals for the last quarter of 2022? With a powerful hiring partner, big goals are no big deal. All you need is Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Finding great talent doesn't have to be a second job. You can reclaim your time and find top talent fast with Indeed. 81% of U.S. online job seekers search for jobs on Indeed each month, according to ComScore. And in the minute I've been talking to you, 16 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So start hiring now with a $75 job credit to sponsor your job post at Indeed.com/BWF. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/BWF. Indeed.com/BWF. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back, Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. Time to spin things forward in the turning point of the season here. Zach, Eagles are 8-0. Everybody knows it. What is the now? I guess when we sent the text, I said the most likely loss. Maybe that's a question you could just look up what the odds are. I mean, the odds are it's the Christmas Eve game against the Cowboys. They're right now listed as 1-point underdogs, actually, in Vegas. Maybe like what is the game that's on your radar as a sneaky loss, or as the schedule sets up? Where do you see the loss coming?
Well, so I
maybe the most likely first loss.
Okay, so I answered the question as intended, which was the most likely loss, which was the Cowboys on Christmas Eve. Great job, Marissa, already updating that graphic. The sneaky loss.
I was like, what should I call this?
So the
maybe the most likely first loss is the question.
I will go the Titans on Christmas Eve. I'm sorry, not Christmas Eve, in week 13. And
Steve Wolf's birthday.
Oh, happy early birthday, Steve Wolf. Mr. Wolf, I should say.
Yeah, you should.
The Titans are a tough team. You saw that on Monday night against the Chiefs, right? They don't roll. They're gonna play you tough. Number one, they rise to these big occasions. I had a stat in my picks column last week that in their time as double digit underdogs under Vrabel, I believe they've won 2 of them outright, including the playoffs last year, right? So, or was it 2 years ago when they won it in the playoffs?
Sounds right.
So, and they can really run the ball effectively. And if there's an Achilles heel with this team right now, it's their run defense. We don't know if Jordan Davis is going to be back by week 13. Derrick Henry is tough to bring down. They're riding Derrick Henry right now. That's a team that can get better as the season progresses. And like I said, they're going to play you hard. They won 5 games before the Chiefs game, bring them in overtime. Now, I imagine A.J. Brown is going to be fired up for that game, and the Eagles are going to feed A.J. Brown the ball in that game. But that would be one that jumps out to me.
I think their first loss is going to come the following week at New York. Because you're coming off of 2. Now, the Packers stink, but it's a Sunday night game. You worry about Aaron Rodgers. Could he pull something out of his hat? And then after that, you got like a slightly shorter week to prepare for the Titans. I feel like that there's a bit of a letdown coming off of that. Maybe the Titans beat you up a little bit physically, even if you get the W. And then division games are weird. And so I think that's when the loss comes at New York against a division opponent who you have not played, and like a coaching staff who you have not played in division, and a team that's going to be like all systems go pointing at you. I think that's when the first one comes. I don't think they're a good team, but
The Giants, that is.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there
and
any...
I think they could lose the next week at Chicago too, as like a letdown. I don't think they're going to lose that Cowboys game, but
That's a sneaky flex possibility game.
Mm.
The Sunday nighter that week is the Raiders versus the Patriots, I believe. So with the way Justin Fields is playing, you're looking at two big markets. If perhaps the Eagles are undefeated at that point, maybe that's a game that's flexed to Sunday night.
We're already talking past this Monday night game, but
so let me ask you this: Are you completely out on the Packers? Like, is there no reconciling there? Because to me, whenever Aaron Rodgers is on the other sideline, there's a chance it could click, and there's a chance he could be dangerous.
Am I completely out on them making the playoffs or winning or beating the Eagles?
Just as a team, right? Are they what they are right now, or is there another gear there for them to hit?
I think there is another gear, but I don't think there is a third gear.
Okay.
I think they're a bad team.
Okay.
That hates their quarterback.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, the guy won't take any accountability. He threw 2 terrible interceptions in the red zone, and he's talking about how hard he tried. Give me a break after he calls out everybody else for their mistakes. What a toxic place to be.
The interception that got deflected was bad.
Yeah, and he's blaming other people. He's got like Kyler Murray body language. What are we doing?
But he's won the past 2 MVPs. I mean,
and choked in the playoffs.
He's a special player like that. So
sure, his level in whatever year that was, after they won the Super Bowl, I've never seen a quarterback play better. I feel like that's like the height of like aesthetic quarterback play to me. But he's been bad, and he's a total jabroni.
I do need to give you and Sheil some credit here. I was perhaps too influenced by the Luck podcast that Marissa did an outstanding job helping produce, because the line that resonated with me in there was, I think it was David Shaw talking when he said the star quarterbacks, there's a thought that you need to help them by getting the wide receivers. But really what they want is get them high-level offensive linemen, because they can elevate the play of the wide receivers. Like they can elevate the play of the offensive linemen. And I figured with the offensive linemen they were getting back from injury, with the continuity that they had there, that offensive line was going to be much better. But where you guys were saying you can't just let Devontae Adams out the door and not adequately replace him, you guys were absolutely right, because them and the Titans, watching those two teams who both let high-level receivers out, and the Titans tried, they spent a first-round pick on Treylon Burks, who's been hurt, but no one gets open. Like, so I kind of feel for Aaron Rodgers. Like, where is he supposed to throw the ball here? No one is.
Aaron Rodgers does not need you to feel for him.
Now, that said, you could throw the ball to your running backs a little bit more. And if you followed my picks column last week, that Aaron Jones plus the over-under there, I thought that was a gimme, and it didn't hit. So, yeah, they need to get the backs involved in the passing game, but the wide receivers are an issue.
I think it's probably telling that like David Shaw and the offense that he's built over the years doesn't really care about wide receivers, but consider the source. That's all. And also the Packers.
David Shaw
as an offensive mastermind, yeah. As a culture builder, fine, but
okay.
I mean, we're not talking about Bill Walsh.
There's like 3 coaches out there that you like.
He's running. He's got like 9 off. He's running like 13 personnel every play. Give me a break. Of course, he doesn't care about wide receivers. Plus, the Packers defense stinks, despite
which
having
I
good
didn't
players.
expect either.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're a bad team, and they've got a terrible juju.
They
The
don't have
quarterback is a
Smith-Schuster.
joke.
They could have gone after Smith-Schuster. Perhaps they would have better juju.
That's well done, Zach. All right, what's our next category here, Marissa? Flash that bad boy up. Oh, most likely to be extended. I think this is an interesting conversation, and maybe we could have built this out to a fuller episode.
Yeah,
But-
this needs to be a full episode, and it needs to be a full article from us because they have so many pending free agents and so many important ones. And I'm going to answer this two ways.
This will be in my. I have to do a prediction, second half prediction, so I have one of them in here for that. Okay. But go ahead.
The one that I would prioritize is James Bradbury, because he's 29 going on to 30, and I don't think he's over the hill yet. But I think you're seeing the value of a high level cornerback compared to a replacement level cornerback. The Eagles haven't had that in a while. They don't have the internal replacement for him. So unless you're going to draft Keely Ringo in the first round or Christian Gonzalez in the first round or someone like that, then I have a hard time I have a hard time putting Zach McPherson in there. But I am skeptical of the Eagles spending big money on a 30-year-old cornerback.
A second 30-year-old quarterback.
A second-year-old. Yes, thank you. A second 30-year-old cornerback. And so I'm going to go CJ Gardner-Johnson. I'm not convinced that's the route. I might go with Marcus Epps over CJ Gardner-Johnson and draft a safety, but I can see them just based on the way CJ Gardner-Johnson's playing, based on the trade that they made for him. And they didn't give up a lot, but the way they were talking about him, his versatility, I can see them paying CJ Gardner-Johnson.
So let's run it down. These are all the pending free agents the Eagles have of importance. Robert Quinn, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, James Bradbury, Isaac Sayamalu, Andre Dillard, Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, Zach Pascal, Miles Sanders, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and Marcus Epps. I think the answer is Marcus Epps as the most likely to be extended. And I don't think it's close.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think, like, you talk about who you want to extend, and Howie Roseman cares a lot about, like, the locker room optics of homegrown players. This is a guy who has been here, who has earned his role, who is playing well, who will probably not cost a lot of money, and who will be motivated to secure a real contract after playing on, the rookie contract of a 6th-round pick for his entire career. CJ Gardner-Johnson, to me, is the perfect keep him for 1 year while he is on his best behavior, trying to secure a long-term deal, and you let him go.
Okay.
I think to pay him now when he leads the NFL in interceptions. I think this is a guy who wants to hit the open market probably. I am like, you're never going to get a better situation for a guy who has to be on his best behavior this year because he has his eyes set on that contract. I would not sign up for him long-term without seeing what the market's going to be like.
I hear you there. My question for you is, what's the next gear for Epps?
I think that's a totally fair question, but I don't think you want to replace two safeties. And I don't and so like, you better, if you're going to do that Gardner-Johnson deal, I mean, you better be right. And in that room too, like, you're going to pay him before you pay Marcus Epps, who has been here, who everybody else in the room is looking to. The Gardner-Johnson guy who has to be told to be on his best behavior, like, who admits that he came in and was kind of a pain in the ass the first week.
Right.
Like, I don't know. That feels dicey. I feel like they are in a perfect position with him to do that, to let him play out the season, give him this opportunity to put up his numbers, and then he can hit the market. And you're going to get he's going to probably be a good value in the comp pick game. I think that is exactly how they should play that.
Fair enough.
With Bradbury, I'm with you that I think it would make, I mean, you don't ideally want to have two 30-year-old starting cornerbacks. I think it'd be great if you could sign him to like a 1-year deal for $10 million or whatever. But I also think, knowing that how the Giants played him last year, he probably wants to hit the market and have a chance to get one more big payday. I wouldn't be surprised. The linebackers are interesting.
Very interesting.
Because it's similar to safety. You don't want to have to replace both. They're not going to re-sign both because presumably they don't want to block Nakobe Dean next year. Like you would imagine that TJ Edwards is the guy that they would want to keep for the similar culture reasons and because he's been the every down linebacker. But like, do they want to pay him? Do they want to pay a linebacker what they would have to pay him? I don't know.
That's where I'm skeptical, and I think they would pay for a safety. So I'm not sure they would pay for a linebacker. And it might be one of those things. And again, I don't know what Howie and Jake Rosenberg and Bryce Johnston are thinking in there, but perhaps they say, all right, this is what we're going to pay a linebacker next year. One of you guys take this, this is the offer.
Right.
And it's an exploding offer in that, once one takes it, the other doesn't.
Right.
Like the other one doesn't have it anymore.
But you wouldn't actually do that, like locker room wise, right?
Sure.
But that's a fair point.
Now, the other thing I was thinking again, because it's against the Eagles to pay older players, but they're not going to have multiple new players in these starting spots. So I was compelled to go Javon Hargrave.
I think that was what I was going to get to. I think they probably will extend him. I think he's number 2.
Yeah. And I can see him being amenable to that. And Fletcher Cox, the way they did that deal last offseason makes me think that this was a 1-year arrangement for both sides. You're not just going to turn it over to Jordan Davis and Milt Williams next year, but perhaps you say, look, they have premium draft picks. They can go into the draft with Davis and Williams. They can add a D tackle thereafter instead of paying Hargrave for, year, what would it be? 29, 30, 31.
He'll be 30 next year.
He'll be 30 next year. So 30, 31, 32.
I think it's probably a 2-year guarantee.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what happens.
Are we ready to have this Miles Sanders conversation yet?
Sure.
Because I thought going into the year, either Miles Sanders would play too well and he'll price himself out of the Eagles, or he won't play well enough that the Eagles would just move on. He's kind of in this in between where he's been good. He's been everything they wanted him to be, but I can't see the Eagles paying at that position. And the only way I could see the Eagles paying at that position is if you're talking about a top of the league player, like what LaShawn McCoy was when he was coming up. And I don't know if Miles is that right now.
Now, I have heard he has talked about after games. He's sort of said, like in passing, like, I want to be here. Like, I want to be here a long time. And I think that's true. And that's the only way that I could see this happening is if it is an incredibly team-friendly deal. And I don't know why he would do that, because you're only going to get one chance to hit the market as a running back and get paid. I mean, I could see them re-signing him in free agency if that's the way that like the market plays out. But I would be surprised if this team and their organizational priorities is pre-aggressive in locking him up. I just don't see it happening. So, all right, it was good.
But that would make a really good podcast sometime in December where we just go through the case for all these guys.
But yeah,
well, there's more players in there to discuss.
Yeah, you didn't even do Hurts.
Well, that is a big conversation.
That's
I was waiting for that one.
But he's not a pending free agent. But that in terms of a contract extension, you're absolutely right. Once they're able to do it, which would be the start of the league year in March, I mean, you could have an offer on the table the first day there. They did Carson that year in May. So it could be one of those things you wait until after the draft to do. It tends, the Eagles' line of thinking with these types of deals is that quarterback contracts only go up.
Right.
If there's a guy that you want, the sooner the better. Now, from Jalen's perspective, maybe there are other quarterbacks he's waiting to see. The obvious one, of course, is Lamar Jackson this offseason. What happens?
Yeah, maybe you want to do it before Lamar.
If you're the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. That's what I'm saying. But if you're Jalen Hurts and you're under contract for next year, it might behoove you to wait for Lamar Jackson because that's only going to raise the ceiling.
Yeah. All right, Zach, the last few, most likely to get better. Could be a player, could be a thing, could be a podcast.
Well, it better be our podcast
Hmm.
because if we're getting worse, that's a problem.
You
And
never stay the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse.
You've never made a truer statement in my time on Birds with Friends. Okay. Because if you are standing still, you are falling behind.
Oh, wow. Backs up a motto with another motto.
So I am going Devontae Smith production here because it's been quiet in recent weeks. The Eagles are playing Washington this week. Of course, we all remember what he did in the last Washington game. And I just simply think there are going to be Devontae days. There are going to be games when the matchup or the coverage dictates the ball going to Devontae. It's not going to be as consistent, but I don't think Devontae is playing poorly. And when I've gone back and watched the games, I see him getting open. And partly it's a volume thing. Partly it's just A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert are so good. But there are going to be 2 or 3 games here when you see Devontae jumping up and having a big game.
Okay. I'll go with a player who was mentioned as a disappointment on the chat. And I think it's a fair answer relative to expectations. Jordan Mailata, who had that bad game against the Texans. You talked to him afterwards. Some debate about whether he thought there was a draw coming on that first sack. I think he has been good, but like hasn't quite taken that leap that you might have expected to like all pro level. I think Jordan Mailata will have a good second half of the season.
So real quick on context for that, because this occurred after we had the post-game pod, Nick Sirianni took responsibility for the sacks. And to the point that it wasn't just him standing up for the player. What the Eagles do is they assign blame for every player on if there's a negative play. They put that player's name on the board. A few of the veterans have spoken about how this is something that's different about Nick that like holds them accountable. And I asked about those sacks in particular. I won't read the whole quote because it's a long one, but Sirianni put his own name on the board. He said, I'm going to take full responsibilities for both of those. They weren't synced up with the protection and the route concepts. And this is the part I will read. There was a concept we were running, and one side was quick game, and the other side was more rhythm game. I didn't teach the read well enough to Jalen, and we kind of got into a pure progression instead of a split field read. What ended up happening is we got caught with the ball in our hand, and we had to hold it a little bit. And Jordan was just taking the set we told him to, and that's going to happen. And I screwed him on both of those. So in simple terms here, Jordan was playing he was blocking the way he was told to on those plays, but the play did not work the way it was supposed to. So
I think that's a little bit covering.
Okay.
Right. Like
that's fine. Yeah.
He did. No, I mean, it's great context. I'm glad you said it. I think it's probably, there's a part of it to being good coaching and taking the public accountability. Like it's not like he was taught to just let Jerry Hughes get right past him.
Sure.
Right.
True. Now, I put this up on Twitter on Friday when Nick said it, and the responses that I got were like, Doc Rivers, please read this. Doc Rivers, please read this. So the accountability that Nick took was I think refreshing for some Eagles fans there.
Yes, I've seen the point made on Twitter today that Pennsylvania would like to kick out a second fake doctor today, but we'll see if that happens. All right, Zach, flip it. I think we probably have the same answer here. Most likely to get worse over the second half of the season.
Yeah, turnover pace. I can't. Yeah. They're plus 15 right now. Nick was adamant. This is not luck here. Jonathan Gannon. When I asked him the question yesterday,
that's the first time I heard that. I can't believe somebody
was. I have to laugh at that. Luck. This has nothing to do with it. I think there's going to be regression to the mean.
Be a lady tonight.
And regression to the mean doesn't mean that you're going to be even here. They could still be near the top of the league, but a plus 15 pace through 8 games is really hard to maintain. So
winning it in every game. I mean,
yes.
Come on.
Yeah. Like I said, only 2 teams have done this before. So through 8 games. So I think that is what's going to drop.
I think so too, and I think it does come on both sides of the ball. I think they will turn it over a little bit more on offense, and I think they won't take it away quite as much.
And by the way, when you're looking at some of these games that they could lose, and why I don't think they're going to go undefeated here, because there could be games when the Eagles look really good on paper to win that game, but they have a poorly timed turnover, or they don't get a takeaway that they were getting in the first eight weeks. And that changes the entire game, right? We see teams that should be winning games, but they throw an interception in the red zone, or they miss an interception in the end zone, and that's what could cause the Eagles to lose a game that we think they're going to win.
And I think it's also important to remember that the second half of the season is often, for half the teams in the league, wildly different than the first. Like, things change a lot. And injuries are a part of that, but maybe there's going to be another team out there that does a 2021 Eagles and completely changes their offensive identity. What team
should do that?
I mean, don't put me on the spot, but
the league better than just about anyone we could have on this podcast. You do 32 power rankings.
Don't blow smoke up my Michael Dunn behind. That's a cameo callback. For one of you, probably. I don't know. I would have to think about that. All right, Zach. Let's finish this up. Give me your Eagles regular season record. What do they finish, and what seed in the NFC are they?
I went 15-2.
Okay.
And I was thinking 14-3, and I do think that we saw this last year with this coaching staff. They're going to sit their guys if they have things locked up in week 18. So you're presuming that's a loss there. So that's why. And
a game where the Giants are probably playing for their playoff lives.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Judge would be furious watching that, right?
Is Joe Judge ever not furious?
So I was compelled to go 14-3 for that reason. I think they're going to have 2 losses before week 18. I'll put it that way.
That's my answer.
14-3
with a meaningless loss in week 18. That's my answer.
So I said 14-2. I'm sorry. I said 15-2, but I guess I'll go 14-2. And then if they play their starters week 18, they win it. If they don't play their starters week 18, they lose it.
Okay. We're on the same page. All right. Let's turn the page. Let's get to Swooper. Marissa, are you ready?
Yes, thank you guys for doing this early. I have my cousin's bachelorette this weekend, so
gonna be wild.
The only reason I would miss a day during the football season is for one of my sweet cousins. So,
how many cousins do you have?
I have 21 first cousins.
That's amazing.
Yes,
that's
and
awesome.
We're all pretty much best friends.
Do you guys do the 50 Cent? I got 21 cousins. You could do that. No.
Mm-mm.
I mean, something to work on this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not off the top of my head, can't think of the boy-girl ratio, but there's a lot of girls, so we're all pretty close. So my bridesmaids were pretty much all my cousins. So is my cousin's wedding. That's in February, the day before the Super Bowl, which hope she's not listening to this. That was quite poor planning on her part. So could make February very interesting for me, but I still love her. We'll figure Browns. It out. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Let's get to Swooper. One of us has taken a commanding lead. That would be me. I've got 6 points. Marissa and Zach each have 1. Marissa, you have no turkeys left over, so you've got 24. Zach, you've got 13, so you've got 37 with which to bid this week. I have 6 turkeys left, I have 1 turkey left over, so I have 25.
Oh. It's a big difference.
Well, I was reading the points instead of the turkeys, and when you have so many points, it can get a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
So I'm at 25 turkeys. Zach, you have a massive advantage. Maybe my turn to go first. I think that might be right.
We should mention the fact that Dana's put out the Swooperlytics, and Zach has literally hit on 3 items all year.
Yes.
So Zach, every time you start reading yours, just when I read Deniz's, I'm just gonna plug my ears.
Who is wasting whose time here, Zach? Because
perhaps I wasn't
of hits that have happened. Deniz has it. 17 have been his prompts, 13 from Marissa in the chat,
Shout out
7
the
from
chat.
me, 3 from you.
3.
3.
Guilty as charged there. Far be it for me to understand the purpose of this game. I thought what we were trying to do was suggest stuff that would either be fun to look for or that is unlikely to occur. If something is likely to occur, then you're more apt to use all your turkeys. So I could say like the Eagles will win every week, something like that, where you can literally see what the odds are for that to occur. I've been going with prompts that I thought were either unlikely to occur or fun to follow. I take full responsibility if I didn't understand the purpose of this game. It would frankly
It doesn't
explain
have
a
to be the
lot.
purpose. It's
Yeah,
just
but
that
it's
if you're
just
going to
now
be
we
the one who
know.
complains about the game and wasting your time, you're the one who's wasting the most time.
I certainly hope I'm not complaining because I have a rule in my house. I have a rule. If my son came in, if my son and daughter came in here and they say, what are the rules in our family? One of the rules is never complain. So I hope I don't complain.
What are the other rules?
Well, it's be a good person.
Okay.
Have good manners. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
All good ones.
They have to do their chores every day. So things of that.
What are
nature.
their chores?
Or their chores? They brush their teeth. They
And
make
not
their
complain.
bed. They clean their room. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
They're young. That's great.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah.
I got to get that in my house. I got a 28-year-old husband who, makes a bed.
I'm staying out of that conversation. So there's a lot of things I don't do well either. So. Yes.
All right. I will start. Devontae Smith leads the Eagles in receiving yards.
Wow, okay.
You stole that one from the chat. That was
And-
literally my very first one.
No,
Exactly.
And from me too. So
Oh, wow, we're all on it.
All right.
Wow.
Okay. 1,
3.
4.
I'll say 5. 5 going once.
6. Oh, I'm sorry, 6. A voice crack there. 6. For context
You're used to being so happy about 5 that the 6 is what threw you off.
Devontae had 8 catches for 169 yards and a touchdown in the first game against Washington in week 3.
6. 6 going once.
I'm out.
6 going twice. 7. Wow. 7 going once. 7 going twice.
8.
8 going
Oh.
once. 8 going twice. Sold.
Wow. Big first one. All right.
The way I see it, he has a 1 in 3 chance. So probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have put eight down for that. The one I was going to do is leads in 2 of 3 categories: targets, catches, or yards. So yards is hard, but we will see.
Okay.
Okay.
Marissa, why don't you go next?
Okay. This is a fun one. This item sells for a number divisible by the jersey number of an Eagles player who scores a touchdown. Hurts excluded. So it can't be,
Well, Hurts excluded from passing, or if he scores a touchdown, rushing, he should count.
But then that's so easy.
Yeah, but otherwise,
All right.
No,
I'm
that's
in.
not true.
I think that should count.
It had to be a rushing touchdown.
But it has to be a rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so. You're basically, looking at like almost any player except AJ has that chance of hitting here.
You think Dallas Goedert's going to hit here? You think this is going to go for 88 turkeys?
No.
It's divisible
It's
by.
divisible
Oh,
by.
yes.
Oh no, but with the way you read it is that it goes by divisible by the jersey number. So you're saying instead the jersey
No, the
number.
item sells for a number divisible. I was taking it
okay.
as
I
was
was
taking
interpreting
it
it that way. Yeah.
the way Zach was taking it.
Well, we got to
that,
figure this out because as it's written, it's got to be
Okay, I
the
see what
turkeys
you-
have to be
Okay.
higher than the jersey
Yes.
or equal to the
Yes.
jersey number.
This was from the chat, and I believe that they were saying how Zach and I was. I
Yes,
mean,
that's how I interpreted it too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So basically,
I see what you mean there. I see the
okay.
misinterpretation
So
there.
we'll flip it around. So
Yes.
the Eagles
player's
jersey-
So,
jersey-
so
yeah.
someone scores a touchdown for the Eagles who has a jersey number that is
Divisible.
divisible
Divisible.
by
Yes,
however
exactly.
many turkeys this sells for.
Yes.
Exactly. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. 2.
3.
And for this, Jalen Hurts doesn't count.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I'm at 3.
Three
Going
going
once.
once.
Going twice.
Sold.
Sold.
I don't
Okay.
know. You got to.
3 gives you Devontae Smith is a good one for 3.
Oh,
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's
For
pretty
3
good.
points?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
down.
But you're not really getting. I mean, you're not really getting anyone.
You got
else
Josiah
there.
Scott if he comes back healthy.
Yeah, true.
All right. So I needed a Devontae Smith touchdown.
That's not bad,
Yeah,
actually.
no.
What's Stoll? Is he 81? No. There's an 81
Too
possibility.
bad I'm really bad at math. So I.
Exel is 89,
89. That's right.
which is not divisible by 3.
What about a defensive touchdown?
Yeah. You got
Yeah.
a shot there. That's a fun one. That's a good one.
Okay.
There very well could be
Okay.
you know. Okay.
Pascal. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in the spirit of the criticism from Professor Selman here, this is one that is likely to hit. Washington scores more points than they did in week 3. They scored 8 points in week 3 when the Eagles won 24-8.
1.
5.
6.
7.
8.
9.
I shouldn't have bid on Devontae. I should have gone with this one here. I know what's
10.
coming.
11. 11 going once. 11 going twice. Sold.
You got it.
That's a good one. And so
I didn't
it
want to
needs
go that high, but I was honestly
That's a good
trying to drive up the price
Yeah.
there, but I'll take it.
8 points is what they scored last.
8, yes, and they need to score more than that. Now, if you recall, they had the safety in that game. They had a safety, a touchdown, and a missed 2-point conversion. So I doubt they'd land on just 8 again. But if they only score 8, you don't win. It has to be 9 or above,
Okay.
9 or greater, rather.
All right.
All right. Let's hear from Dennis.
Okay. No red. Casey Tuhill plays more defensive snaps than Robert Quinn. Tuhill has averaged about 19 snaps per game over the past 4 games.
So for context, last week, Robert Quinn played, I think it was 12 snaps. And I asked Nick Sirianni about it on Friday. And he said that's going to change going forward. They had certain packages in. I imagine the short week had something to do with it. He said it's going to be more in line with what Brandon Graham has played. So but you never know. And again, in running situations, I don't know if they're having Quinn on the field yet in those spots. But they do have more practice time, so something to see here.
Moa culpa from me. This reminds me, I meant earlier in the prompt for most underrated storyline of the season, I meant to bring up the Kerry Vincent trade, which I do believe has gone under the radar as a bad move by the team. That's on me.
Thanks for that clarification.
I got to do a better job. I will bid 3.
4.
5.
6.
That was a strong chesty 6.
Well, it was better than my previous 6, right?
Do I hear 7? Going once.
7.
Zach, do I hear 8?
I'm already down the.
Casey Toohill plays more defensive snaps than Robert Quinn.
Yeah, I'm done here.
All right, sold to Bo for 7.
Going once, going twice.
Twice sold.
Now, Chase Young, if he returns, affects this.
Yeah.
You're right.
We'll get into
Which he
actual
should,
game
right?
preview stuff. It's likely that he returns, so maybe that's wrong. I imagine that the Eagles will run more plays than Washington, but I might regret this one. But it's a 50-50. You take a shot.
You should bet on. Well, you're not betting on.
Yeah,
Casey
of course.
Toohill
I
here,
should take.
so,
I should take Casey Toohill. All right. An Eagles linebacker has a sack or interception in the game,
1.
and a half sack counts.
2.
3.
Hill. 3 going once. 3 going twice. Sold. Good one.
Yeah, it was bargain. I mean, what was there? How many times did they sack? They had a lot of sacks against them when they played earlier the year, right?
That's true. Yeah. What do they have? 8 in that game?
Yeah, it was something crazy. I didn't really want that one, but okay.
Yes. Hassan Reddick does not count. This has to be a. You
Okay.
understood. It's a off-ball linebacker.
Yep. I'm still okay with it.
All right.
Okay. Is it my turn? Yeah.
Yes.
Carson Wentz makes the trip to Philly.
Ooh, has he been traveling? Do we know?
I don't know, but this was in the chat, and I thought this was a good one.
Zach's gonna fire off a rapid text to Standick for an answer here.
That would be disingenuous.
Not if he told us you were doing
And how long is he supposed to be out? Like it's
He's on IR.
I think his career was like.
Well, it's hard to put them back in with the. I mean, they're winning games with Heineke, so.
but like he would be like kind of close to returning, right?
Someone in the chat says he did travel to Indy. I don't know.
Mm. Squidward says he's pretty
2.
on it. I got 3.
I think he really wants to go just to get relentlessly booed. Is that much of a fetish?
4.
He's a team player. 4. I'm out. You got this one, Zach. Unless Bo wants it. 4 going once. 4 going twice.
5.
6.
Ooh.
Oh, another chesty 6. 6 going once. 6 going twice. Sold.
Okay.
Well, now, how do we know that he like? Are we saying he's on the sideline or like?
I feel like
made
we'll
the
know.
trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Made the trip.
Yeah. You can ask Ben if there's
Exactly.
question. But if he's seen
He's at the
with-
game.
Yes.
You can't
Yeah.
just go to the team hotel Saturday night or Sunday night and then go
Yeah.
home. Yeah,
That would be kind of cowardly. I
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah,
All
if
right,
he's
here's
if
Zach.
he is there.
Okay. Javon Hargrave has a sack. And so for context here, Javon Hargrave has 5 sacks the past 2 games. Before that, he only had 1 sack this whole season in the first 6 games of the year, I should say, and that came against Washington. So Hargrave, who's been hot recently, 5 sacks in 2 games, had a sack against Washington, and so the prompt is he has a sack in this game.
Full sack.
Let's go at least a half a sack.
Oh, okay. Opens it up. I'll say 2.
3.
4.
I'm out on this one.
Nope. I think Zach got his standing text.
No.
He's glancing off to the side.
I have alerts on my phone from the Eagles, and the Eagles tweeted. So I looked at that. This is the time of day when if there's a transaction, it comes out. But it was Brandon Graham talking about having financial advice. So I don't need to read that right now.
Okay.
But that's what
You know what? We never
sent
sent it to the Stone Cold Newsman at the top of the show to get the Andre
Andre Sachere on the 53. Fred Johnson signed to
Another Johnson.
the practice squad.
Yes.
So what number are we at for Javon?
4, I believe.
Yeah.
4 going once. 4 going twice.
5.
Ooh, sneaks it in. 6.
Okay, you got it for 6.
6 going once. 6 going twice. Sold.
Must be that 6 number.
It's the half sack that's really
Okay.
all right.
All right. It is. This is a normal one. The Commanders do not score on a field goal. The Commanders are dead last in field goals per drive, and the Eagles have allowed the league fewest field goals per drive.
And this is the Commanders do hit a field goal?
No, the Commanders do not score on a field goal.
Do not score on a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
1.
2. 2 going once.
3.
4.
4 going once. 4 going twice. Sold. Pretty
All
good
right.
slate for you, Marissa, with limited
Bargains.
turkeys.
Yeah.
All right. This one is in honor of Marissa's cousins.
Jeez, I'm scared.
There is a 21-yard gain from either team during the game from the line of scrimmage.
It has to be 21.
It has to be precisely 21 yards.
Mm.
And it's not with the penalty yardage added on.
Correct.
Okay, because in the score sheet, they'll put that down for longest
Right.
plays.
It has to be the 21-yard.
Okay.
But negated plays do count.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So if it's a 21-yard gain, but then there is a penalty
Holding on the play. Yeah.
it counts.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Can you give us a turkey update real quick?
Yes. You have 3 turkeys. I have 12. Zach has 23.
Okay.
I don't know how many 21-yard plays occur in a game typically.
I'll say 1.
2.
Oh. I mean, I think this is unlikely, but I want to root for it, so I'll say 3.
You can have it at 3.
And Marissa can't bid.
Yeah.
3 going once, 3 going twice.
Sold.
Sold. 9.
Okay. Terry McLaurin has more receiving yards than Devontae Smith.
Terry McLaurin in the first game had 102 receiving yards on 6 catches. 2.
Got to be the quietest 100-yard game I could possibly remember from an
3.
6.
Oof. 6 going once. 6 going twice. Sold to Bo.
Now you're both down to 3 turkeys.
That's right.
And we have how many categories left here?
2.
Good to know. Okay.
All right, you
I'm-
go, Zach.
So I should do something that's like guaranteed to hit here.
You should
Okay.
cheat, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the one that I rewrote after my Devontae one was taken off the board. And that is a player on the Eagles has a reception. A player on the Eagles who did not have a reception against Washington in the first game has a reception against Washington in this
That's a
game.
good one.
And to give you the players who had receptions against Washington in the first game, there were 7 of them. Okay. Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Zach Pascal, Grant Calcaterra, Jack Stoll, and Miles Sanders. But those who did not included Quez Watkins, Kenny Gainwell, and Tyree Jackson, who's potentially back this weekend,
And Boston Scott.
and Boston Scott,
Okay. And all offensive linemen.
and all offensive linemen,
And Jalen Hurts.
and Jalen Hurts. Correct. I'm going with 3.
Oh, you see how we did that, Marissa?
Smart. So smart. Wow.
All right.
Game
you got
theory. Okay.
it. Borderline cheating, but that's okay.
How's that
Last one.
cheating?
Okay.
Meeting would have been like the Eagles gain a yard. Okay. And then said, I'm going with 3. Yes.
Okay, there is a lot of writing and red and green and all sorts of
gosh.
colors.
Okay.
Okay. The item is there are more total accepted penalty yards from scrimmage on both teams when the Eagles have the ball than when the Commanders have the ball. The Eagles O and the Washington D have combined for over 55 penalty yards per game, while the Washington O and the Eagles D have had just 31 yards per game combined. And now this is a sealed bid auction with resale. First, all the players privately write down their bids and then reveal them at the same time. Bids may not exceed the number of turkeys players have remaining. The highest bidder wins the item and pays their own bid. If there is a tie, determine the winner randomly. Coin flip for 2 players, random fair draw for 3 players. Next, the winner can auction off the item to the other 2 players who can borrow from next week's turkey total to bid. This is similar to the resale auction we did several weeks ago, with the turkeys going directly to the player doing the reselling. So this is when I bought my turkeys from you, Zach. Last time, Zach.
Which you won that week, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the item again, there are more total accepted penalty yards from scrimmage on both teams when the Eagles have the ball than when the Commanders have the ball.
All right. Everybody got their bids?
Yep.
Hold on.
3, 2, 1.
3.
Okay. Zach gets it for 4. I also bid 3 for the audio listeners. All right. Zach, so you've won it. Do you want to sell it?
Everything has a price.
What about your family?
My family does not have a price.
Okay.
Every item has a price.
So how much you want to sell it for? I'll buy it for you for 5.
Spoken like a true Ted DiBiase.
I frankly wasn't even listening to the item. But
Wow.
I knew I was going to get it once. So, for 5, nah, I need 8 in order to sell it.
8.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even know what the item is, Marissa. He doesn't even know what he's selling.
Yeah. This is great. No one should tell him.
So he really
Let's
thought it
change
over.
it.
You know, I really
He needs
canvassed the market. I need 8 for this
I need 8.
doohickey that I have no idea what it does.
I'll give you 6 and we'll call it a deal.
Let's compromise at 7. Meet in the middle.
Nah, that's too high.
Okay.
I need to use my 3 remaining turkeys and then only 3 for next week.
You can have it for 7.
I'm out.
How about this?
What a
Let's make it
masterclass
a
in
conditional. Let's do it for 6. But if it hits, it's 8. If it doesn't hit, it's 6.
Okay. If it hits and I
Love
win
that.
the week.
Oh no, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. But if it hits, I get 8. And so you agree on, it's like a conditional draft pick. You're agreeing on 6. That's the lowest you're gonna get, or that's the lowest you're giving up. But if it hits, you give up 8. Not
How
8
many
more.
items do I
Love that.
have, Bo?
You have 4 items. Right now, everybody has 4 items.
Hmm. I'm reading over the prompt again since I have it in front of me and Zach doesn't. I'm gonna stay without it. It's a little too complicated for me.
All right, then I will stick with what I have here.
I liked your
All right.
bargaining, and that would have been a good deal. But again, there are more total accepted penalty yards from scrimmage on both teams when the Eagles have the ball than when the Commanders have the ball.
Okay. Zach gets it for 4. He's got
Okay.
16 turkeys left over. Marissa and I both
16.
have
Yeah,
3.
that's insane. Like, I don't know if I could give him 6 of my turkeys so he goes into next week with another week with. I know he's got a strategy.
So Zach has that one. He has a player for the Eagles has a catch who didn't have a catch the first time these 2 teams played. Carson Wentz moons the fan base from the sideline, and Devontae Smith leads the Eagles in receiving yards. Marissa has someone on the Eagles scores a touchdown who has a jersey number divisible by 3. Washington scores more than 8 points. a linebacker has a sack or interception, and there are no Washington field goals hit in the game. And I have Casey Toohill plays more snaps than Robert Quinn. Javon Hargrave has at least a half a sack. One of the two teams has a 21-yard gain, and Terry McLaurin has more receiving yards than Devontae Smith. Even week. Tough for somebody to bounce back from or come close to last week's 4-for-4 performance from Bo, but that's neither here nor there. All right, Zach. Any final thoughts?
We're back at the facility tomorrow for it's been an extended absence here.
Wednesday's Tuesday, Thursday's Friday, Wednesday. It's it's all messed up.
This starts a stretch of no time off for the Eagles here until potentially the bye week in the playoffs. You can always count on your bye, you can count on your mini bye, and then sometimes you can count on the Monday game giving you an extra day during the week.
You can count on your fingers.
This is their last Monday game. They don't have a bye, and they don't have a mini bye here. So they have Sunday games the rest of the way, and actually, I shouldn't say that. They have a Saturday game Christmas Eve. So technically, after the Dallas game, they have a little extra time to celebrate Christmas.
And couldn't that Week 18 game theoretically get flexed to a Saturday, right? It could flex to either day.
That's true. Correct. Okay. So, but point
Not
being,
to be pedantic, I just wanted to.
Yeah, they don't have this. They don't have this extended absence anymore. So they get right back into it now, and not really any injuries to monitor this week. Jordan Davis is on IR, but something to watch this week, and this is for down the roster. But Tyree Jackson, does he
really on your radar, huh?
Does he join the 53-man?
Oh, is this this is the deadline for it?
Is it this week or next week?
I think they still have time, right?
They still have time. Okay. So
feels like you got some. It feels like there's some inside reporting going on here. There's this on your radar. Like someone's been telling you that Tyree's ready to break out.
No, not that at all. But anyways,
in those texts to Jeffrey.
Certainly something to monitor. And we'll be back later this week with our predictions. And I hope Marissa has a wonderful time with her cousins at the Bachelorette.
Thank you.
And now that we are about 91 minutes into the episode, does either one of you have any politics takes that you'd like to get off your chest?
I'm shocked we made it this far.
I hope everyone voted. We're all fortunate to have the opportunity to vote, and I hope everyone exercised that freedom. Yeah.
Okay. You slept through the whole thing, Zach. Sleeping soundly
last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to sleep, I had a good sense of what the outcome was going to be.
Oh, I know. Insider dealing going on.
No, it was
as plugged in as it gets. He knew Bobert wasn't going to win that race in Colorado before anybody did. He's a reporter's reporter. He's firing off tweets. He's firing off texts with Jonathan Tamari saying, "I took your job. Now tell me what's going to happen in this race."
I meant the Pennsylvania races, but okay.
Okay. All right. For Marissa and Zach and Dennis, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you on Friday. No Marissa. Maybe we'll have a mystery producer. Maybe it'll be Jason Kelce. We'll talk to you then. For all of us, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. And as always, we love you.